During Eric's lowest time, I stayed by his side as his fiancé, without a single complaint. But once he got his company back on track, he decided to marry his first love. He let her take everything from me, turning me into a complete joke. But you know what? I didn't cry. I didn't make a fuss. I stepped aside quietly, because, with the breakup money, I could treat my first love's illness. I went to Eric's office to drop off some documents. There were some suggestive noises coming from inside. It was Daisy. Eric had been hanging out with her a lot lately. Daisy heard my footsteps and coyly told Eric, "Your fiancé's here. Should we pause? Let her wait a bit." The sounds got more suggestive, sparking wild thoughts. After a while, Eric came out, looking disheveled with a hint of a mark on his neck. "What's up?" He looked down at me with little patience, given his height. "Documents, signature," I said straightforwardly. He picked up a pen and signed quickly, as if eager to get rid of me. But just as I was about to leave, he stopped me. "Gina, I need you to do something." "What?" I asked. "I got photographed with Daisy yesterday. Make sure the media doesn't publish it." "Why should I?" I mocked. "Aren't they capturing the truth? We haven't broken up. If they release it, Daisy will look like the other woman. It won't be good for her career." Eric was handsome as ever. Even such a jerk move sounded generous coming from him. I stood there for a while, not moving. His patience ran out as he warned, "You'll take care of it, right?" I smiled slightly. "Of course. I got someone to suppress the gossip, and people gave me weird looks. I mean, our three-way situation wasn't exactly secret in the company. 5 years ago, Eric was a newbie trying to run his family's entertainment company. He got tricked, sidelined by the board, and lost terribly. He was down and out. Then he met me. I helped him bounce back, regain control of everything. One time when Eric was drunk, he held my hand tightly. He said, "My life is all thanks to Gina. Without her, I would have jumped off the company building long ago. Gina, my dear Gina, let's get married. Please, marry me." Everyone was cheering, and I nodded softly, "Okay." Later, I found out that the same night he confessed to me, Eric also texted Daisy. He asked if she was interested in signing on with Eric Entertainment. Daisy agreed. It turns out, she was his long-lost love interest even before her debut. The day they signed the contract, Eric was too excited to sleep. Eric cared about Daisy excessively. When she was filming, he'd visit her on set. Eventually, rumors about them started spreading in the crew, so Eric brought me along. He said, "You should clarify things for Daisy's reputation." "How should I clarify?" I asked. "Just say we were all together last night," he replied. "But I wasn't with them last night." Eric didn't even look at me. His attention was entirely on his phone. He was browsing Daisy's new photos, saving each one. There was a water scene that day. The weather was cold, and the water was freezing. Daisy refused to get in. She whined to Eric, "I'll catch a cold. Do you really want me to get sick?" Of course, Eric couldn't bear it. He ordered the director to find a stand-in. But the stand-in was off that day. Desperate, Daisy pointed at me. "Gina, you're about the same height and build. Only your back will show. It won't be noticeable." Eric hesitated initially, but he realized no one resembled Daisy more than I did. Before he could finish, I interrupted. "Eric, I told you this morning, I'm on my period." He was taken aback. Daisy scolded me. "So what? Women overseas drink cold water during their period. No big deal. Gina, you work for the company. Stop being so dramatic." She spoke as if she was already the boss's wife. I looked at Eric calmly. He knew I couldn't handle cold during my period, or I'd be in unbearable pain. Yet, after a while, he gave up on me anyway. "Gina, just endure it this once." In the end, I didn't get in the water. The director couldn't stand it and borrowed a professional extra from another team instead. But since that day, Eric started taking back most of my authority at the company. Access to his office switched from me to Daisy. Now he openly flirts with Daisy and still expects me to clean up their messes. In the break room, colleagues gathered and gossiped. "Why doesn't Gina get mad?" I wouldn't be able to take it. "She's blinded by love. She's too into Eric to care." I stood outside and couldn't help but smile. Yeah, there's not much I won't endure, but it won't be much longer. Simon's illness is almost cured. The boy who risked everything, even his own life, to save me when I needed it most, is about to wake up. There was a gathering that night, and I was late. Eric had already done a round of drinking, with Daisy sitting next to him in something skimpy. They lost a game, and had to do something intimate amidst everyone's cheers. Someone mentioned, "Won't this make Gina upset?" Eric's face turned cold. "Why bring her up?" I paused outside and listened with interest. "Eric, what's the deal with you and Gina? What's there to say? I never meant to marry her." "Really?" Eric scoffed. "Gina's only got a pretty face, but she's dull and boring. I'm over her. Daisy looked nearly smug. Then can I pursue Gina? Another rich kid dared to ask. I actually like her type. Eric was taken aback, but soon looked angrily ready to explode. If you lay a finger on Gina, I'll make sure you never get home again. The guy chuckled awkwardly. Didn't you say you're over her? But you haven't broken up yet. Are you still attached? Nonsense, am I attached? Eric shot back, scanning with cold eyes. She's like gum, won't get off no matter how hard you try. Someone tried to ease the tension. Yeah, Gina can't leave Eric. She might throw a fit, or even threaten to off herself. The tension eased a bit. I finally pushed the door open and walked in. I acted like I had just arrived, laughing and chatting with friends, deliberately ignoring Eric. Eric was in a bad mood. Gina, come over here, he said. I pretended not to hear, taking a seat next to the rich kid. Eric's face turned dark. Gina, if you don't come over, we're done. The room went silent. Everyone seemed to be waiting for me to panic, or try to make up, but I just blinked calmly and said, all right. That was the night Eric and I broke up. I heard that after I left, he threw a massive fit, and almost trashed the private room. But Eric still thought I was just having a tantrum, and would eventually give in. He waited and waited, but what he got was my resignation letter. Eric started to panic. He searched everywhere for me, asking around for any news. He said he never meant to break up. He also claimed that Daisy was just someone he brought in to put on a show, and nothing ever happened between them. Moreover, half of Eric Entertainment was built by me. When I suddenly left, the company fell into chaos. Eric was on the verge of a breakdown, but he couldn't find me anywhere. I took all my savings and vanished. 4 months later, I made headlines across major media outlets. Simon woke up from his illness, and Gina cried tears of joy. In the photo, I looked at Simon with tears in my eyes, full of happiness. The picture was shared and talked about like crazy. A few years ago, Simon was the hottest star in the entertainment world, but he was severely injured while saving someone and fell into a coma, forcing him to retire. Eric finally found out that Simon and I had been childhood friends. Simon had saved me back then. Lastly, and most importantly, I never loved Eric. All these years, I put up with him and went along with him just for my first love's medical bills. Rumor has it, the day Eric saw the news, he went completely nuts. The history between Simon and me is simple yet not simple. We met at an orphanage and grew up together. When I was 7, a wealthy couple adopted me. They weren't very kind, but at least they had money, so I never worried about food or clothing. Simon wasn't so lucky. He had delicate features, even as a kid, attracting attention, earning him the nickname Pretty Boy, which he hated. Whenever other kids called him that, he'd rush to fight them. Parents shook their heads, so Simon became a child no one wanted. During puberty, Simon got worse. He'd go crazy and fight anyone who joked about his looks. In 7th grade, Simon fought a teacher's son. The teacher publicly criticized him, demanding an apology. Simon picked up a mic, smiling not kindly. Your son asked how much I charge for a night. Maybe he learned it from his dad. You get what I mean. The room was in an uproar. The principal was furious, threw a cup at Simon, and it cut his forehead. Blood ran down his face, yet he stood firm, and his smile grew colder, more haunting. Like a god, tired of the world. Surprisingly, though, the next day, Simon went to apologize to the teacher. He even wrote a 10,000-word reflection, pleading tearfully for leniency. It was as if the rebellious kid from the previous day was someone else. No one understood what happened, except me. That day, in the chaos, I grabbed Simon's hand and pulled him out of the crowd. My adoptive parents didn't allow me to contact friends from the orphanage, so Simon and I lost touch for years. I didn't expect us to reunite this way, and Simon was thrilled. I told him that no matter what, he must not drop out of school. Studying is our only weapon right now. Only with it can we regain our lost dignity. Simon listened to me. From then on, he acted like a different person. He sought pleas to keep his student status. Then he stopped fighting, studied hard, and outperformed everyone academically. In school, we pretended not to know each other. Even if we passed by, it was just in passing. But no one knew that after every late-night study session, Simon quietly followed me home. Once he saw me into my house, he would stand silently below my bedroom window, smoking, keeping watch until I fell asleep. The orphanage was poor, and Simon was often hungry. I would share half of my pocket money with him, so he wouldn't go hungry. During that damp, stifling youth, that's how we spent our time together. After the high school entrance exam, that teacher got arrested. The charge was child molestation. When he was arrested, I stood in the crowd, smiling at him, because I was the victim, and I'd led him into a trap. You can't blame me. I just wanted to speak with the principal about my future, and happened to be wearing a short skirt. The police? What's wrong with a minor girl trying to have police protection in advance? If the teacher were a good person, no matter how much effort I put in, I wouldn't have trapped him. The scandal blew up. While testifying, my eyes were full of tears, pitying. Everyone sympathized with me. And why not? I was the top student, always well behaved. The man couldn't take the pressure and jumped off a building, but he survived, permanently disabled. His son's bullying incidents at school got exposed, and no high school would accept him. This was my first scheme, at 15, and I won big. The only downside was some people criticized me. They said I was dirty, promiscuous at a young age. My adoptive parents were disappointed too, but I didn't care at all. Probably since then, I realized I was different from other girls. Stuff like chastity, reputation, all baloney. The win was all that mattered to me. Winning excited me, made me shiver. To win, I could go to any lengths. Later on, I got into a top university. Simon pursued a career based on his godlike looks. He rose to stardom quickly. No one knew the gentlemanly persona he showed on screen was my creation. His agency had no idea I existed. We were the perfect alliance. Until 5 years ago, my adoptive parents went bankrupt from failed investments. They sold me to a wealthy businessman to clear their debts. That's when I realized they raised me all those years, not out of affection, but to make sure I was attractive, smart, and poised. So I'd fetch a good price. Simon found out and used all his savings since debuting to get me out. That was the first time Simon saved me. The second time was a freak accident. Someone tried to run me over with a car. It was snowing heavily that day when Simon and I met. Because of his public image, he couldn't go anywhere crowded. As I was crossing the street, a car suddenly sped towards me. Simon quickly pushed me out of the way, but got hit himself, ending up in a pool of blood. The driver fled the scene immediately. That road didn't have cameras installed yet. This accident ended Simon's successful career. He lay in a hospital bed, requiring expensive treatment to survive. But Simon was broke. He had spent all he had to rescue me. His agency abandoned him, citing force majeure for terminating his contract. In the entertainment industry, there are always fresh faces, and Simon was slowly forgotten. But I didn't forget. I met Eric and helped him rebuild his company, partly to pay for Simon's medical bills, partly to uncover the truth behind the car accident using Eric's influence in entertainment. Later, Eric confessed to me. I knew exactly what he wanted, my abilities to keep me around, working for him. I wanted his fiancé status to do more. So began our mutually beneficial relationship. Do you think I broke up with Eric because I couldn't stand his cheating? No, it was because I discovered the car accident might have connections to people around Eric. This flashback ends. The microphone gets shoved in my face. Today marks Simon's second month of recovery. He can't appear on camera, so I'm here for the interview. A journalist suddenly asks, Ms. Gina, you were once Eric's fiancé, but now you're with Simon. Do you still love Eric? I look up, and there's Eric at the back of the crowd, eyes red, staring at me, almost like he couldn't believe he saw me. This question should be directed at Eric. I reply softly. Did he love me when he spent nights with Daisy on set? Did he love me when flirting with Daisy at the company? Did he love me when secretly dating Daisy and making me lie for them publicly? The journalist was stunned, and the whole place went silent. I smile, relieved. Anyway, I can't love him anymore. Eric's gaze shook. He looked devastated. After the interview, he cornered me backstage. I hadn't seen him in 6 months, and he looked even more haggard than I imagined. He said, I finally found you, Gina. I nodded politely. Hello, Mr. Eric. The unfamiliar title made him pause. Gina, are you still mad? Not anymore. Then listen to me. Nothing ever happened between Daisy and me. She was just acting. What kind of act? Eric's face fell. An act staged for you to see. His next words surprised me. So here's the gist. Daisy was hired by Eric to rile me up, because I was too gentle, too passive. I never questioned his whereabouts. When he stayed out all night, I didn't ask. When the media fabricated rumors about him, I was indifferent. I was perfectly robotic. Eric was uneasy. His gut told him I didn't love him. He'd repeatedly ask, Gina, do you love me? I'd always give the textbook response, of course, I love you. But when I said those 3 words, my smile never wavered. Eric was confused. So he had a crazy idea. He wanted to see me jealous. He brought Daisy in, pretended to be affectionate in front of me, but he never expected me to leave entirely. Eric's voice got rough. Gina, I've sent Daisy away. No one can take your place. Will you come back? I didn't respond. Eric got anxious. I like you, genuinely. I don't want to lose you. I cut in. What about Daisy? What does she say? Don't worry, Daisy's a good person. I made it clear when I first hired her. A good person, really? I smiled and slowly took out my phone. I had screenshots of a tweet Daisy posted. In the picture, Eric was asleep, and she was leaning against his chest. It was very intimate. The caption read, "Didn't feel well on set today. Someone came to keep me company. After all these years, he still comes when I call." This tweet was probably visible only to me. Eric was dumbfounded when he saw it. He asked, "How could she?" I said, "Eric, this is your good Daisy." Due to my interview, Daisy's reputation took a steep dive. Soon after, a video surfaced. It seemed recent. Eric and Daisy were arguing. What did we agree on? Eric questioned her. "I just needed you to play along, not to stir things up. How could you tweet something only Gina could see? So manipulative." Daisy protested tearfully. "I just wanted it to seem real." "Your idea of real is taking bogus pics while I'm sleeping and sending them to my fiancé." Daisy stuttered and eventually cracked. "What's so great about Gina anyway? Her figure's average. She's not even as pretty as me. What do you see in her? I don't need to tell you what I like. But she's gone. Why can't you turn around and look at me? Didn't you used to like me best? I'm right here now. Why won't you look at me?" Eric was cold. Too late. Daisy wasn't giving up, and she broke down crying. Eric grabbed his coat, ready to leave, but she stopped him again. "Eric, can you stay with me tonight?" she asked. This move drained the last bit of patience Eric had. He jerked his arm away, and accidentally pushed Daisy to the ground. But he didn't even look back, showing no pity. When the video was exposed, it caused a huge uproar. A fool pretending to cheat, and a mistress hoping for the real deal. In the end, they shot themselves in the foot. What a show. The key is, Daisy always portrayed an innocent image, and this move shocked everyone. Public opinion was entirely on my side. Daisy couldn't handle it. One morning, a phone call woke me up. A friend told me Daisy put me on the trending list. She exposed all my past secrets. On camera, Daisy talked with amusement. I watched her performance with interest. Daisy wanted to drag me down with her, but what she didn't know was, her good days were numbered. I suddenly remembered the day Daisy signed with her company. That was when I first met her. She looked at me like we already knew each other. "Didn't expect to see you here." Her words were odd. I thought for a long time, and couldn't remember meeting her before. But recently, I've got leads. Let her enjoy it a bit more, because once I have the evidence, she's going down. While lost in thought, a friend texted me, "Isn't today Simon's first show since his comeback?" I replied, "Yeah, why?" "The guest is Daisy." Not long ago, Simon announced his return to the entertainment world. He doesn't have a manager now, so I'm handling all his bookings. When we booked this show, the team didn't mention Daisy would be a guest. How convenient. I rushed to the recording studio, worried Simon might get bullied. But I was wrong. Daisy was stunned when she saw him, forgetting the cameras. The other guests were the same. Simon had been ill for years, but fortunately, he's naturally gorgeous. Even now, his looks outshine the whole industry. His illness only added a certain broken charm. When he's not smiling, he looks like a deity, but one smile and he's like a captivating ghost. The camera crew couldn't get enough of him. During a break, Daisy talked to him. Simon looked down at her, smiling indifferently. Daisy blushed, but she didn't notice the coldness in Simon's eyes. After filming ended, I went backstage to meet Simon. Caught Daisy there. "I've heard so much about your beauty, and now I see it's true," Daisy said. "Thank you. Do you know Gina well? What do you want to say?" Simon blinked, as if bewitched. Daisy gathered her courage. "Have you seen the news? Gina's passed. It's dirty. No offense, just don't want you to be tricked." "You're talking about Gina being a kept woman?" Daisy nodded. "Yes, I saw it. I didn't want to say it, but I fear smart men like you and Eric will be deceived." "That's kind of you." Simon smiled politely. He lifted his hand, his finger grazing Daisy's chin. Daisy shivered shyly. "It's crowded here. Let's go out first." She looked hopeful, but in the next second, Simon grabbed her throat, squeezing hard. "First, I'm aware of Gina's past. I was a part of it. Second, I'm the one who saved Gina. Third, if you do this again, I'll break your neck." Daisy struggled painfully, her face turning red. Simon let her go only after he had enough. She coughed, looking at Simon with terror instead of infatuation. "You're thinking of telling the media, right?" Simon's tone was too gentle, like he was just asking her about dinner choices. "Go ahead, say whatever. But know this. Someone who's been to hell fears nothing." Daisy was horrified. Then Simon saw me. He smiled, looking beautiful. "Gina, let's go." I held out my hand to him. "Wait." Simon pulled out a wipe, cleaning his hands thoroughly. "Touched something dirty earlier." I chuckled. Behind us, Daisy glared at me with resentment. But her nightmare wasn't over. When Simon and I walked out, we ran into a group of Eric Entertainment executives. They stormed towards Daisy, pulling out a stack of papers. "Daisy, we're terminating your contract." I figured Eric checked my past after seeing the leak, and he found out things weren't great for me. My foster parents loved to punish me. Didn't score well, beats, acne on face, beats. When they went bankrupt, I was sold off. Safe to say, for over 10 years, I was never considered family. Eric should have learned that Simon spent everything, even kneeled to get me out. Simon never looked down on me. That's something Eric can never match. He wants to make it up by shutting down the leakers directly. The contract termination made waves, trending for days, but soon, Daisy found a new backer, still acting high and mighty, seemingly unaffected. Then, I saw a photo, Daisy getting cozy in a car with her new guy. The car caught my eye. Celebs usually use SUVs, but this was her personal ride. No, the second time. First was years ago when it tried to hit me. That snowy, blurry day of the accident. I only remembered the car model. Over the years, I quietly investigated through the company. Finally, many clues pointed to Daisy. She was the most likely driver, but the evidence was lacking, especially the motivation. Why would she want to harm me when I don't even know her? When Eric first said he wanted to sign with her, I wasn't upset. I actually thought it was an opportunity. Daisy came to the company and wanted to treat the XX to dinner. That night, I pretended to be drunk. Daisy had her assistant take me home. I took a risky move and got in their car. I had a knife in my bag for protection, and a mini camera on me just in case something went down. But surprisingly, the assistant just asked me a few questions. Where did I spend Christmas 5 years ago? Where was I on the night with the biggest snowfall? Did anything unusual happen? In my drunken state, I was like, how would I remember? With all the work, I can barely recall what I ate the day before. Really can't remember. The assistant's eyes flickered. I shook my head. Come on, isn't every year the same? After saying that, I leaned my head sideways, pretending to be asleep. The assistant quietly messaged Daisy, but he had no idea I was squinting, catching everything in my peripheral vision. From that day, I stayed on guard. What happened 5 years ago? Did I miss something? And sure enough, I found out. An old man was dragged and killed by a vehicle. The driver wasn't found. It became a cold case. I remembered that intersection where it happened. I recalled how it snowed heavily that day. The streets were barren. Just me and an old man collecting parking fees. He was bundled in ragged clothes, bickering with a driver. I glanced at them back then, not paying much attention. Probably right, after I turned the corner, Daisy lost patience and floored the gas. The old man's clothes got hooked on the car, dragging him 100 meters. By the time people found his blood-drained, frozen body, the snow had long covered the tire marks. The police had no leads, because the nearby camera was down. The old man had no kids, no family, no one to seek justice for him. So the matter just ended there. Unbeknownst to me, I was the only witness. Daisy, fearing for her future, wanted to silence me, but she didn't know. I had my back turned and earphones in my ears. I didn't witness her crime. 2 weeks later, another snowy day, she tried the same trick, but her plan was foiled by Simon rushing out. The failure made her hesitate. Plus, since I hadn't gone to the police, she suspected I didn't see the scene. Daisy thought she escaped, but she'd never expect karma's real, and justice will eventually come. The day after Daisy happily announced her new endorsement, I handed all the evidence to the police. It went viral. Once the police got involved, it became straightforward. To prevent Daisy from escaping through connections, I posted all the evidence online while contacting them. Countless eyes were watching. Nobody dared help her now. After a thorough investigation, the police announced both the old man's death and Simon's near miss were Daisy's doing. The first was an accidental killing. The second was premeditated. Daisy was arrested. She confessed to everything. Turns out, after the first incident, Daisy searched high and low for me. She stalked me for ages, learning my routine. I walked through a lane with no cameras every day. She chose that spot to act, but she never expected I wasn't alone. Simon, wearing a mask and hat, would always watch me from a distance, silently. The famous actress turned murderer was a scandal no one could resist. Daisy cried crocodile tears, claiming she was naive and didn't know the old man was caught on her car, insisting it was unintentional. This only fueled more backlash. Online, people called her unrepentant, accusing her of lying even now. In the years Simon was laid to rest, so was that lonely old man. She could never repay either. After Daisy's imprisonment, my life resumed peace. Simon's popularity surged faster than before the incident. We started a personal studio, and quickly established a foothold in the industry. Eric came looking for me again. His company lost its star, almost a year's investments down the drain. Eric was struggling. The once high-status guy now fell from grace. When he came to find me, it just happened to be raining. Gazing at the rain, Eric looked back, eyes filled with loneliness. If we hadn't broken up, we'd be planning our wedding now. Yeah, Eric had wanted the wedding by summer. Sadly, we never got there. You'll find someone better. I wish you well, I replied politely. That's what I thought too, but he laughed bitterly. But a year after our breakup, I'm still stuck. I've been losing sleep. Every time I close my eyes, there's just you. The doctor gave me meds, didn't help. Gina, did you know, I can only fall asleep to the sound of your old meeting recordings. I nodded, offering the most reasonable advice. Then maybe you should see a different doctor. Gina, can't you forgive me? It's not about forgiveness. It's about not loving you. Eric's eyes turned red. He dropped to his knees in front of me. Gina, please, give me another chance. I looked at him with pity, then slowly raised my hand. The ring on my finger sparkled. I'm engaged, I said gently. I wish you well, Eric. His last bit of hope shattered. All color drained from Eric's face. You? Simon proposed, and I said yes, I whispered, caressing the ring. We're announcing it in 2 days. You can't do this. Eric was losing it. Gina, you're my fiancé. Didn't we always agree to run the company together and have a daughter? Raise her to be CEO. How could you? Eric, get a grip, I gently reminded him. You were the one who suggested we break up. Eric was stunned, teetering. As I was leaving, he reached out desperately, trying to hold on to me. He was interrupted by Simon. Simon stood protectively in front of me. Eric, please don't bother my fiancé. Yours? I've been the one taking care of her all these years. Thank you for looking after Gina, but you don't have to anymore. Eric was so furious that he punched the window. Blood dripped down from his fist. Gina loves me. She's just mad at me. She'll come back eventually. Eric, Simon interrupted him. Has Gina ever truly cared for you? I mean, really cared? He smiled mischievously and spoke in a calm voice. When I was a kid, I had a bad temper and would often get punished by the director and not given food. It was Gina who would save part of her bun for me every day. When we went to school, I was poor and hungry. Gina risked getting beaten by her foster parents to share her allowance with me. I was bullied by teachers and classmates and almost became depressed. Gina was the one who consoled me, encouraged me to live, and took risks to get back at them for me. Simon paused, then continued. You see, it's because of her that I'm alive today. By the way, Eric, do you know what major Gina likes? She loves biology, but she switched to a film major because she was afraid I'd be bullied if I entered the industry. Simon lit a cigarette, then suddenly remembered I didn't like the smell and put it out immediately. Gina never tells me she loves me, but in over 20 years, she's never left me. Simon looked at me with a steady gaze. I looked back at him. At this moment, I finally understood my feelings. I'm not a good person, and I don't love anyone. For my goals, I'll stop at nothing. But Simon's different. I want to live and die with him. Because he long ago surpassed love, family, and friendship, he's become an inseparable part of my life. Later that night, Simon was pinned underneath me. I touched his face and praised him. This face is really beautiful. Simon doesn't like being called pretty. All the fights he got into as a kid started because of it. But with me, it's different. No matter what I say, he enjoys it. Gina. He held me, letting me do whatever I wanted. The corners of his eyes were tinged red, looking quite enchanting. I said, I've gotten revenge for you again. Are you happy? Simon laughed. But it's not over yet, right? Gina, you want a lot more than that. I stopped and sighed. You really understand me too well. Yeah, it's not over. My ultimate goal was never just to get rid of Daisy. It's the company. That's why I got close to Eric in the first place. I want to replace him and rise to the top of the industry. I want this arrogant industry to bow to me, to heed my call. Eric built his company with my effort. I invested a lot of time and care. And I planted things. I know exactly where the weak points are, where one hit will break them apart. Now, it's time to devour it. Turning over, Simon bent down to kiss me. Go and show them what you've got, Gina. His kiss was soft, like gentle waves. I'm your most loyal soldier. Use me all you want. The company started having problems. The building was about to collapse, crumbling from the inside. First was the finances. When Eric asked me about hiring financial staff, I told him they were great. Truth is, they are smart, but they love to cut corners. In the long run, they're a liability. Perfect for me. Sure enough, we ran into trouble. Afterward, I waited a while longer. The company's issues came one after the other. Its reputation in the industry plummeted, and many board members strategically withdrew. Eric was running out of options. The company was on the brink. He struggled for 2 months before finally coming to me. When Eric found me, he'd lost a lot of weight, looking worn out. He begged me for help. I was direct. I want your shares. His eyes trembled. But, there's no but. If you can't make this decision, go back and handle it yourself. I closed the door on him. Simon stood outside, watching Eric. Neither spoke. After a long while, Simon asked him, "You know why I'm better than you?" Eric looked up at him. "Simon, I listen better." Eric was expressionless. Maybe he understood, maybe he didn't. Simon continued, "In this life, other than Gina herself, I don't want anything. Even this worthless life is dispensable. So, whatever she does, I'll follow and help her reach the top." Simon closed his eyes briefly. His last words took Eric by surprise, because once at the top, nobody dares bully us. At that moment, I stood back to back with Simon across the door. It felt like we were 6 years old again. He was locked in the dark room. We supported each other, separated by a door, amidst life's vast torrent. I stepped in eventually. Eric stepped back to support me from the sidelines. In 5 months, the company underwent a thorough restructuring. I rebuilt a new system. I had the most shares, naturally leading the board. Simon's personal studio was now under the company's umbrella. He became my one-of-a-kind top star and the company's marquee artist. But, when I wanted to rename the company, some executives resisted. A female executive, very loyal to Eric's family, didn't accept me as chairwoman. She said I climbed up by selling my looks. I wasn't upset at all. The workplace often treats women unfairly. Talented women like her deserve my respect. I called her into my office and explained the company's structure and plans. The more she listened, the quieter she became. "Did you do all this? What do you think? You studied film. How can you manage a company?" I learned from my foster parents as a kid, and after being sold abroad, I learned from some big shots. "Oh, by the way, the company's overseas business benefited from those experiences. You were treated like a caged bird and still learned things." I shrugged. "That's probably why I'm standing here today. Looks matter, sure, but against real strength, beauty is nothing. Love and looks might let you down, skills won't. I've never wanted to be a boss's wife in my life." I smiled, pointing upward. "I only want to be the boss." The female executive was silent for a long time, finally asking me one question. "Equal pay for men and women. Can you really do it? Isn't it being implemented already?" Later, on the day we went public, she was standing right next to me. She became another confidant for me, aside from Simon. As for Eric, he got sick. He was diagnosed with severe depression. He decided to let go of the company, head overseas to heal and relax. I had originally helped him rise from being a playboy to becoming a chairman. Now, it seems like I've turned him back into a playboy. On the day he left, I heard he waited at the airport till the very last moment. I never showed up. Before boarding, a light rain fell from the midsummer sky. He said, "Gina came to see me off." A colleague asked, "What?" He stared out the window for a long moment, silent. Later, I accidentally saw a photo taken at the airport. Hanging from Eric's backpack was the charm I gave him back when we first got together. By the 3rd year after the company went public, our business was steadily growing. Simon became an unshakable, iconic success. We held our wedding. Neither of us has any family, just friends. With their blessings, Simon took my hand. He cried, "Gina, do I have a family now?" I said, "I've always been your family." I hugged him, leaned into his ear, and whispered, "Simon, I love you." We both understood the weight of those 3 words. I've told people I love you countless times before, with a straight face, casually. But never has it felt like it does today. It's heavy, stretching across a lifetime, woven into my bones. After a journey full of changes, I finally spoke up. In the past, nothing could separate us. From now on, it'll stay the same.